My name is Emma. I used to be normal. Or at least, I thought I was. I had a decent job, a small circle of friends, and ordinary problems that seemed important at the time. That was before the house, before the wall started to breathe, before I learned what truly lives in the spaces we can't see. It began 3 months ago when my life fell apart. My fiancé left without warning, taking our shared savings and leaving me with nothing but a hollow feeling and unpaid bills. I lost my apartment shortly after. Desperate and alone, I found myself scrolling through rental listings I could barely afford. That's when I saw it. A house on Blackwood Lane. Victorian, partially renovated. The rent was suspiciously low, but I was desperate. The ad mentioned unique character features and historical charm. What it didn't mention was why no one had lived there for more than 6 months at a time. The landlord, Mr. Keene, was an old man with milky eyes and trembling hands. He barely spoke as he showed me around. The house was beautiful in a decaying sort of way. High ceilings, ornate moldings, creaking hardwood floors. The walls were covered in faded floral wallpaper, peeling at the edges like old scabs. Previous tenants complained about the noise. Mr. Keene mumbled as he handed me the keys. Old houses settle. Nothing to worry about. I moved in the next day. My few possessions looked small and insignificant in the large rooms. That first night I slept better than I had in weeks. The house was silent, save for the occasional groan of old wood. I felt safe. That feeling didn't last. On the third night, I woke suddenly at 3:17 a.m. Not gradually, not drifting up from a dream. My eyes just opened. The room was dark, but something felt wrong, heavy, as if something was watching me. I lay perfectly still, barely breathing. There was a sound coming from inside the wall next to my bed. Software, rhythmic, like fingernails tapping gently against the other side. Tap, tap. I turned on the lamp. The sound stopped immediately. I pressed my ear against the wallpaper, holding my breath. Nothing. Old houses settle, I whispered to myself, repeating Mr. Keene's words like a mantra. Nothing to worry about. But the next morning I noticed something I hadn't seen before. A hairline crack in the wall, right where I'd heard the tapping. It was thin, barely visible unless you were looking for it. I ran my finger along it and pulled back immediately. The crack was warm, like skin. I tried to ignore it. For a week I went about my routine, work, home, sleep. But each night I woke at exactly 3:17 a.m. And each night the tapping was louder. Each morning the crack was wider. Then I found the journal. It was hidden behind a loose baseboard in the living room. Small, leather-bound, its pages yellow with age. Most of it was empty, but on the first page someone had written in shaky handwriting. They live in the walls. They watch through the cracks. They whisper your name when you sleep. I should have left then. I should have packed my things and run, but I had nowhere to go. No money, no options. That night, I dreamed of hollow spaces, of dark, cramped places where something old and patient waited. I dreamed of a face without features watching me from a crack in reality. I woke gasping for air. At exactly 3:17 a.m. The tapping had stopped. Instead, there was whispering, so faint I could barely hear it. A voice dry and cracked like old paper, saying my name over and over. Emma. Emma. Emma ... I turned on the light. The whispering stopped, but the crack had spread. It now ran from floor to ceiling, branching out like veins or roots. And it was pulsing. Subtle. Almost imperceptible. But I could see it. The wall was breathing. "This isn't real," I said aloud, voice trembling. "This is stress or mold toxicity or something." That's when I heard the laughter. software. Childlike, coming from inside the wall. I ran downstairs and spent the rest of the night huddled on the couch, lights blazing. In the morning light, I convinced myself I'd imagined it all. The human mind plays tricks in the dark. Everyone knows that. I went to work like everything was normal. Like I hadn't spent the night listening to something moving inside my walls. My co-worker Diane noticed the dark circles under my eyes. "You look terrible," she said. "Everything okay at home?" I almost told her. The words were on the tip of my tongue. But what would I say? That my house was alive? That something was watching me through cracks in the wall? She'd think I was crazy. "Just having trouble sleeping," I said instead. "New place, you know." When I got home that evening, something was different. The air felt thick, like wading through invisible syrup. The light seemed dimmer, colors muted, and there was a smell, faint but unmistakable, like wet earth and old copper. I went straight to the bedroom. The crack had changed. It no longer looked like a simple split in the plaster. The edges were uneven, organic, like a wound. And at its center, where it was widest, I could see darkness. Not the darkness of an empty space, but something deeper. Something that swallowed light. I placed my hand against the wall beside the crack. The surface was warm, and I swear, I felt a pulse. Slow and steady like a sleeping heart. I backed away, bumping into my dresser. A picture frame fell, glass shattering on the hardwood floor. The sound echoed strangely, lasting longer than it should have. And when it finally faded, I heard something else. A sigh, coming from inside the wall. I couldn't stay in that room. I grabbed a blanket and pillow and made a nest on the living room couch. I left every light on and played music through my phone to drown out any sounds. At some point, exhaustion won, and I fell into a restless sleep. The dream came again. The hollow spaces, the waiting darkness. But this time, I wasn't just watching. I was there, moving through narrow passages, my body contorted unnaturally. Ahead, something was retreating, always just out of sight. Something pale and wrong. I followed it deeper and deeper until the passage opened into a vast space. A room that couldn't exist. The walls were covered in thousands of cracks, each one showing glimpses of different rooms, different houses, different people sleeping, unaware they were being watched. In the center stood a figure, tall, impossibly thin. Its skin was white like milk, stretched too tight over a frame that wasn't quite human. It had no face, just smooth blank skin where features should be. It turned to me, that featureless head tilting curiously. Then, the skin where a mouth should be, split, tore open into a wide, toothless grin. "Emma," it said in a voice made of many voices, "we've been waiting for you to see us." I woke up screaming, but I wasn't on the couch anymore. I was standing in the upstairs hallway, facing the wall. My hands were pressed against the wallpaper, fingers digging into a crack that hadn't been there before. My nails were broken, fingertips bloody. I had been clawing at the wall in my sleep. I stumbled back, heart hammering against my ribs. That's when I noticed. All the walls had cracks now, thin spiderweb fractures running along every surface. And in the dim light of dawn, I could see movement behind them. Subtle shifts of shadow, like something positioning itself for a better view. I ran downstairs, grabbed my phone, and called Mr. Keene. No answer. I left a frantic message about structural issues, about needing to move out immediately. Then I called Diane. "I need help," I said when she answered, my voice breaking. "Something's wrong with my house. Something's
in the walls. There was a long pause. "What address are you at?" she finally asked, her voice strangely flat. 42 Blackwood Lane, I said. Another pause. "Emma," she said slowly, "that house burned down 15 years ago. There's nothing there but a vacant lot." I dropped the phone. It hit the floor with a crack that seemed to echo throughout the house, throughout my bones. "No," I whispered. "That's not. I'm standing in it right now." I looked around the living room. In the morning light, I could see what I'd missed before. The wallpaper wasn't just peeling. In places, it was blackened, as if by fire. The ornate moldings were warped. And through the windows, I couldn't see the street or neighboring houses. Just a gray, formless fog. A laugh bubbled up from my throat. Hysterical. Broken. Was I losing my mind? Was any of this real? The phone on the floor was still connected. I could hear Diane's tinny voice calling my name. I bent to pick it up, and as I did, I noticed something else. The baseboards. They were moving, pulling away from the floor, revealing dark, hollow spaces beneath. And in those spaces, eyes. Dozens of them. Watching me. I ran for the front door. It wouldn't open. The knob turned, but the door itself seemed fused to the frame, as if it had never been meant to open at all. Just a prop, an illusion. "Let me out!" I screamed, slamming my shoulder against the wood. It didn't budge. Behind me, the cracks in the walls were widening. The sound was horrible. Not the clean snap of breaking plaster, but a wet, organic tearing, like skin being ripped apart. I backed into the center of the room, watching as the walls convulsed. The cracks became gaping wounds, revealing not the wooden structure of a house, but dark, pulsating tissue, veins and sinew. The house wasn't just alive. It was a living thing disguised as a house.
And from those wounds emerged them. Pale, emaciated figures. Limbs too long, joints bending in impossible ways, their bodies smeared and distorted like images in a warped mirror, and their faces, smooth, featureless expanses of skin, save for those awful, tearing grins. They slithered from the walls, their movements jerky and wrong, like footage played at the wrong speed. They surrounded me, but didn't touch me. Just watched. With eyes I couldn't see but could feel. One of them stepped forward, taller than the others, its head nearly brushing the ceiling. "Emma," it said in that voice of many voices. "Don't you recognize us? Don't you recognize me?" It reached up with long, bone-white fingers and touched its featureless face. The skin rippled, shifted. And suddenly, features emerged. A nose, eyes, a mouth, my face. It was wearing my face. "No," I whispered. "This isn't real. You're not real." It laughed. My laugh, but wrong. Hollow. "We've always been real, Emma. We've been with you since you were small, watching from the cracks in your childhood home, whispering in your ears while you slept, waiting for you to be ready." The others were changing too, their blank faces taking on features. I recognized them all. My parents, my ex-fiancé, Diane, Mr. Keene, everyone I had ever known. "We wear the faces of those you know." The thing with my face said, "We learn your world from the other side of the wall, and when we find someone special, someone who can see us, we bring them home." "This isn't my home," I said, voice shaking. "It is now." The floor beneath me shifted, softened. I looked down to see it rippling like water. I was sinking. The house was swallowing me. "Help!" I screamed, though I knew no one could hear me, no one real anyway. As I sank deeper, the creatures gathered around, watching with stolen faces. The one wearing my face knelt beside me. "Don't fight it, Emma,"
The hollow spaces have always been your home. You've just forgotten. The floor closed over my head like water, and I was pulled down into darkness, into the space between walls where they lived, where I would live now too. I don't know how long I've been here. Time works differently in the hollow spaces. Sometimes I think it's been days, sometimes years. I can move through the network of passages that connect all houses, all walls. I can peek through the cracks and watch the people on the other side, living their lives, unaware. Sometimes I find cracks wide enough to reach through, to tap, to whisper, and sometimes I find someone like me. Someone who hears the tapping, who sees the cracks for what they are, who reads the warnings and still stays. Someone special. Someone who can see us. Someone to bring home. Look at your walls. Look closely at those hairline fractures you've never noticed before. Press your ear against them and listen carefully. That's me, tapping. That's me, whispering your name. And I'm not alone. They live in the walls. They watch through the cracks. They whisper your name when you sleep. And now, so do I.